Usually when we talk about like a morning routine, there is this cultural expectation of tranquility, right?
Oh, yeah, the whole aesthetic morning thing.
Exactly. You wake up, the sunlight is, just starting to peek through the blinds. You take this deep breath, maybe stretch a bit and ease into the day.
Right. It's supposed to be this quiet, intensely personal moment where you, I don't know, set your intentions or whatever,
Yeah, the proverbial blank slate, like the one single moment of the day that truly belongs to you before the demands of the real world just rush in.
which sounds lovely in theory.
It really does. But I mean, let's be honest and look at the actual reality of a modern morning.
Yeah, the contrast is pretty stark.
It's completely different. You wake up, your eyes flutter open, and before your feet even touch the physical floor, like, before your brain has even fully processed the fact that you are conscious, you reach over to the nightstand.
Reflexively,
Mm.
almost without thinking.
Yes, you grab that little glowing rectangle, and in that exact fraction of a second, without you even realizing it, you have just stepped onto an active battlefield.
You really have.
You are already the target of a trillion-dollar war.
And it is a war that is entirely invisible. I
Right.
mean, there are no explosions, no sirens, no visible collateral damage. It is completely silent, which is precisely why it is so, effective.
It sneaks right up on you.
Yeah.
And that sets up exactly what we're doing today. Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a massive stack of research today. Behavioral science papers, investigative articles, all centered around this terrifying reality.
The trillion-dollar war for the human mind.
Exactly. The mission of this deep dive is to really understand this profound shift in our reality. Attention, your daily, minute-by-minute focus is no longer just a cognitive function.
No, not at all.
It has become, quite literally, the single most valuable resource on planet Earth. Every notification you get, every vibration in your pocket, every video that seamlessly auto-plays.
Every endless scroll.
Yeah, all of it. It is all part of this silent war happening right inside your own mind. And the most unsettling part of our research today is the realization that most people, they don't even know they're losing.
Well, because the nature of the loss is disguise, right?
How do you mean?
So we are biologically and culturally conditioned to think of loss in strictly physical terms. If you lose your keys, you feel this instant jolt of panic.
Oh, for sure.
If someone steals your wallet, you feel violated.
Yeah.
You notice the absence of a physical possession immediately. But losing your attention, it doesn't feel like a theft in the moment.
It just feels like you're passing the time.
Exactly. It feels entirely voluntary. You think you're choosing to look.
Right. Okay, so imagine waking up tomorrow morning and finding an invisible burglar standing in the corner of your bedroom.
Creepy, but go on.
Right, just standing there watching you sleep. But when you wake up, they aren't taking your wallet from the dresser. They aren't, unplugging your television or rummaging through your jewelry box.
We're ignoring the physical stuff.
Completely. Instead, they are meticulously, quietly siphoning away your focus second by second. And they are doing it so smoothly with such sophisticated psychological tools that you're actually inviting them to do it.
You're holding the door open for them.
Literally, you are handing your focus over to them, completely unaware of its actual market value.
And that analogy really hits at the very core of the paradigm shift we need to establish here. To understand how we arrived at a point where human focus is a tradable commodity, we have to look back at the foundation of global economics.
Right, like how we traditionally define wealth.
Yeah. For the entirety of human history, up until roughly, I don't know, the last 15 or 20 years, we universally believe that the richest, most powerful entities in the world sold tangible physical
Like
products.
stuff you could touch.
Exactly. If you wanted to build an empire, you built infrastructure, you manufactured cars, you drilled deep into the earth for oil, you forged steel.
You grew and distributed food.
Right. Wealth was intrinsically tied to physical extraction and physical manufacturing.
Commerce was something you could drop on your foot and it would hurt.
That's a great way to put it. And even in the early days of the tech boom, it was still about selling the physical desktop computer or the physical software in a, shrink-wrapped box.
Like going to the store to buy a CD-ROM.
Exactly. But that era is totally over. The ultimate commodity today, the raw material that builds the most staggering, incomprehensible corporate empires the world has ever seen, is human distraction.
Distraction,
Right.
just looking away from your life.
Yeah. The most powerful companies on the planet today do not primarily sell you a physical object. They sell you. They sell your distraction.
Wow.
And the insidious nature of this shift is that because we are still operating on that old industrial age paradigm thinking that wealth only comes from physical transactions, most of us simply do not realize that our internal mental state has actually been industrialized.
We're walking around thinking the oil barons are still the undisputed kings of the world, while the attention barons are literally living inside our prefrontal cortex.
Yep. They own the real estate in your brain.
So if our attention is the raw material, how is the extraction actually happening, like on a mechanical level? Let's look at the apps that everyone listening right now spends their entire day on.
The usual suspects.
Right. Think about the social media platforms you check on the train. Think about the video apps you watch before bed. Think about the search engines you use, like 50 times a day. What do they all have in common?
They don't cost anything.
They are completely 100% free. You do not pay a single dime to download them, and you do not pay a monthly subscription fee to use them.
And yet, these are the most highly valued companies in the history of capitalism. We're talking about valuations in the trillions of dollars.
Which, if you apply traditional economic logic, makes absolutely zero sense.
Not at all.
You have these massive, sprawling headquarters in Silicon Valley. You have server farms the size of small cities consuming the energy of entire nations. You employ tens of thousands of the highest-paid software engineers and data scientists in the world.
The overhead is astronomical.
Astronomical. And you are giving away your core product for free to 3 billion people. How does that math possibly work out?
Well, the math only resolves when we confront the absolute core truth of the attention economy, which the source material lays out very clearly. If a product is free, then you are not the customer. You are the product.
Man, that phrase always gives me chills.
It should. We have this deep-seated illusion that we are the customers because we are the ones holding the device. We are the ones swiping the glass. We are the ones, experiencing the interface.
We feel like we're in control.
Right. But in the boardrooms of these trillion-dollar companies, you are not the buyer. You are the inventory.
You're the product sitting on the shelf waiting to be purchased.
Exactly. And the terminology used within the industry to describe this process, it's highly mechanical. Human attention is being harvested, measured, packaged, and sold every single second a person stays on a screen.
I really want to break those specific words down because they sound so, so industrial. Let's start with harvested. That implies a crop, like wheat or corn.
Yes. Harvesting implies a systematic, industrialized gathering at a massive scale. It is not accidental, and it's certainly not passive. When you open an app, your attention isn't just incidentally wandering around a digital space.
Like wandering through a park.
No, not at all. It is being actively and aggressively gathered up by the interface. The interface itself is the combined harvester.
Okay, so they harvest it, then what?
Then your attention is measured. And the granularity of this measurement is staggering. I mean, they aren't just measuring what you click on.
Which is what most people think, right? Like, oh, they know I clicked on a shoe ad.
Right, but it's way deeper than that. They measure how long your thumb hovers over a specific image before you keep scrolling. They measure whether you turn the sound on for 3 seconds or 5 seconds.
Wow.
They measure the gyroscopic tilt of your phone to see if you shifted your posture while reading a headline.
Wait, really? The physical tilt of the phone?
Absolutely. Every single micro movement, every hesitation, every acceleration is a data point.
It's biometric surveillance disguised as convenience.
That is exactly what it is. And then comes the next step. Once they have all these measurements, it is packaged.
What does that look like? Packaging human focus.
Well, your specific measurements are grouped together with millions of other users who display similar behavioral patterns. You become part of a highly specific demographic package.
So not just like generic marketing bucket.
No, not just men in their 30s, but men in their 30s who linger on luxury watch videos on Tuesday mornings when their phone battery is below 20%.
Come on, they actually factor in the battery life. That's insane.
Oh, absolutely they do. Behavioral models show that users with low battery life exhibit higher states of urgency and anxiety, making them more susceptible to certain types of impulsive decision-making.
Because you're rushing to get things done before the phone dies.
Exactly. That data point is incredibly valuable to an advertiser. And this leads to the final step. It is sold. That package of guaranteed human focus categorized by psychological state and behavioral history is sold to the highest bidder.
And I imagine this isn't happening in some slow, drawn-out boardroom meeting.
No, it happens in real-time bidding networks, in the literal milliseconds it takes for a web page or a feed to load.
Milliseconds.
Algorithms auction off your eyeballs to advertisers at the speed of light. The longer you look at the screen, the more auctions take place and the richer the platform becomes. Your time is literally, mathematically, their money.
So we all sort of know apps want our attention, right? Like intuitively, we know they run ads and want us to stick around. But the source material makes this really interesting point that they aren't just competing with each other anymore.
Right.
So if I'm using a photo sharing app, is that app just trying to beat out a rival video sharing app? Who or what are they actually competing against?
That is the assumption most people make, but it's fundamentally incorrect. They outgrew corporate rivalry years ago. They are not competing against a rival software company. They're competing against your nervous system itself.
Your literal biology.
Yes. They are competing against your biological need for sleep. They are competing against your evolutionary need to connect with your physical environment, your need to rest your eyes, your need to reflect, your need to go outside.
So the human body is the competitor.
Exactly. The primary adversary of the modern tech empire is human biological limitation. To maximize profit, they have to figure out how to bypass the natural stop signs built into your brain.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second because I want to push back on this idea of a biological invasion.
Sure.
Isn't this just a lack of self-control on our part? I mean, nobody is physically forcing me to look at my phone. I can just put it down, right? Are they really hacking my brain? Or am I just being lazy and choosing the path of least resistance?
It is a very common defense mechanism to blame our own willpower. We all want to feel like we're in control. But we have to look at the asymmetrical nature of this conflict.
Asymmetrical how?
Well, think about it. When you sit on your couch after a long day of work, your cognitive load is totally depleted. Your willpower is a finite resource. And by 7:00 p.m., it's running practically on empty.
True. I'm usually wiped out by then.
Right. Now, look at what's on the other side of that glass screen. It's an entire army. Thousands of the smartest engineers, neuroscientists, behavioral ecologists, and AI supercomputers on the planet.
Yeah, that's a lot of firepower.
And they wake up every single day with unlimited budgets and one singular mission: to dismantle whatever tiny bit of willpower you have left. You are bringing a butter knife to a nuclear standoff.
Wow. Okay, when you put it like that, so how are they dismantling it? What is the actual mechanism they use to bypass my willpower?
They do it by exploiting the dopamine pathways in your brain.
Yeah.
And we need to clarify what dopamine actually is, because there's a massive cultural misconception about it.
Yeah, people think it's just the happy chemical.
Exactly. People think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. They think you eat a piece of chocolate, you feel pleasure, and that's dopamine. That's incorrect. Yeah. Dopamine is not about the reward itself. It is about the anticipation of the reward. It is a seeking neuromodulator. It is the chemical that compels you to look, to hunt, to seek out novel information.
Ah, so it's the itch, not the scratch.
Exactly. It's the itch. And the tech industry realized that if you want to keep a human engaged indefinitely, you don't give them a predictable reward. Because if it's predictable, the brain gets bored.
So what do they do instead?
You use something called a variable ratio reinforcement schedule.
Variable ratio reinforcement. Okay, break that down for me.
It is the exact same psychological principle that makes slot machines so wildly addictive.
Oh, like in a casino.
Right. When you pull the lever on a slot machine, you don't know if you're going to get nothing, small payout, or the massive jackpot. That uncertainty that maybe, just maybe, this next pull is the big one, sends dopamine production into absolute overdrive. Your brain says, I have to pull it one more time to find out.
And that is exactly what pulling down to refresh your feed is. You pull down the screen, the little loading wheel spins, which is literally the reels of the slot machine spinning, and you don't know what you're going to get.
You have no idea.
Will it be a boring news update, an angry political rant, or like a highly entertaining video of a dog? You don't know, so you pull it again and again.
Yes. And they combine this slot machine psychology with what we call the mechanics of the infinite.
The mechanics of the infinite.
Think about the physical world. In the physical world, things have natural stopping cues. A book has a last page. A television show has ending credits. A newspaper has a back page.
Right, there's a natural conclusion.
When you reach the end of a physical medium, your brain receives a clear neurological signal. The activity is complete. The circuit is closed. You can now transition to something else.
You can go to sleep, you can talk to your family.
Exactly. You can reflect on what you just read.
But on a social media feed,
Yeah.
there's no back page.
There is no back page. The invention of the infinite scroll, which, by the way, is credited to a designer named Asa Raskin, who later deeply regretted inventing it, was a watershed moment.
Because it removed the stopping cue.
They intentionally removed the natural finish line. You just keep swiping up, and there is always, mathematically, more content. It is a trap designed to prevent your brain from ever receiving that activity complete signal.
So you just never feel done.
Right. What's fascinating here is that infinite content creates infinite consumption. It's like eating soup from a bowl that secretly refills itself from the bottom.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Because you never see the bottom of the bowl, you never get the visual cue that you are done, so you just keep eating until you are physically sick.
The modern internet wasn't designed to inform us. It was architected down to the pixel to capture us.
To capture and hold.
And that leads to a really disturbing question. Shifting focus from the software to the hardware, the human brain. If we are trapped in this infinite loop, what is this design actually doing to our biology? What is happening to us when we live like this?
Well, we can look at the symptoms.
Let's do a symptom check. I want everyone listening to think about their own habits for a second. The source notes that the average person now checks their phone hundreds of times a day.
Hundreds.
If you opened your physical refrigerator hundreds of times a day without taking anything out, your family would stage an intervention.
They'd think you were losing your mind. But because it is a glowing screen, society has completely normalized the compulsion. We don't even blink at it.
No, we just accept it as modern life.
And this constant rapid-fire checking is fundamentally altering how we experience time, space, and our own internal states. The most profound shift we are seeing is the absolute intolerance for waiting.
The loss of waiting.
We can no longer endure the physical discomfort of an idle moment.
It really has become painful, hasn't it? Like, just standing in an elevator feels excruciating now.
An elevator ride is a perfect microcosm. It takes maybe 20 or 30 seconds. Yet observe what happens when two people step into an elevator today.
It's so predictable.
The doors close, the social pressure of confined space sets in, and almost involuntarily, hands go straight into pockets. The phones come out. The mere prospect of standing in silence, of simply existing in a transitional space without external stimulation, triggers genuine psychological anxiety.
It's not just elevators, though. It's traffic lights. It's standing in line for coffee. Even when we are supposedly engaged in, like, high-level entertainment.
Oh, the double screening.
Yes, we sit on the couch with the 60-inch television in front of us, exploding with millions of dollars of CGI and surround sound, and within 10 minutes our brains say, this isn't enough stimulation, I need to hold the 6-inch screen in my hand too.
We are double screening our leisure time because a single screen isn't enough to pacify the nervous system anymore.
Which points to a really tragic milestone mentioned in the text. Humanity is rapidly, slowly but surely, losing the ability to be alone with its own thoughts.
We are actively outsourcing our internal monologue to external feeds.
That is so dark.
It is. Think about it. The moment a thought threatens to bubble up to the surface, maybe it's a lingering anxiety, a creative idea, a painful memory, or just a deep philosophical question about where your life is headed, we instantly numb it by consuming the thoughts of strangers.
We are terrified of the silence in our own heads. But here's where it gets really interesting. What happens in the brain when we actually allow that silence? Because if we are losing it, we need to know what we are sacrificing.
That's a crucial question. When you are resting, when you are simply staring out a window or daydreaming, your brain does not shut down. It activates something called the default mode network.
The default mode network.
Yes. This is the neurological network responsible for self-reflection, for processing complex emotions, for empathy, and for connecting disparate ideas together to form creative insights.
So it's doing heavy lifting behind the scenes.
Huge heavy lifting. It is where you synthesize who you are and what you believe. When you constantly flood the brain with external stimuli, the default mode network never gets a chance to fully engage.
So you're stunting your own growth.
You are literally preventing your brain from consolidating your own identity.
Man. So we're losing our capacity to self-reflect. But I want to propose something based on the text. This inability to be alone isn't an accident. Is the erosion of our solitude actually a requirement for this whole economic system to work?
It is absolutely a requirement. It is the goal. Think about the economic profile of a person who is completely comfortable in silence.
Okay, let's play that out.
If you have the time and the mental space to sit and reflect, you might realize you don't actually need to buy that new pair of shoes to feel confident.
Right.
You might process an interpersonal conflict deeply and realize you don't need to post an angry rant online to feel validated. Reflection creates individual agency. Focus creates cognitive independence.
And cognitive independence is, from a corporate standpoint, completely unprofitable.
Exactly. A highly focused, deeply reflective population is a disaster for an economy built on impulse and distraction. When you are focused, you are the architect of your reality.
You're in the driver's seat.
Right. But when you are distracted, you are relegated to a state of constant passive reaction. You are just reacting to the red notification badge, reacting to the breaking news alert, reacting to the targeted advertisement.
And a reactive population is incredibly easy to influence.
Therefore, the destruction of our solitude isn't some accidental side effect. It is the prerequisite for control. The less you can be alone with your own mind, the more you must rely on the system to tell you what to want and how to feel.
So if a distracted, reactive mind is easier to manipulate, what exactly is the trajectory of that manipulation? Like, what are they manipulating us into? This brings us to a concept I want to map out carefully from the source material, the funnel of control.
The funnel of control, yeah.
It starts with simple attention, but it cascades into something much more invasive. Can you walk us through that chain reaction?
Sure. The funnel of control is essentially a behavioral chain reaction, and it is the absolute blueprint of the attention economy. It begins, as we just discussed, with capturing attention.
The top of the funnel.
But attention is just the entry point. Because if you can consistently control what a person pays attention to, you inevitably begin to influence their emotions.
Because we react to what we see.
Exactly. Human beings are deeply permeable. What we look at dictates how our nervous system responds.
Right, like if I spend 4 hours doom scrolling through videos of natural disasters and economic collapse, my body is physically going to produce cortisol.
Your body doesn't know you're just looking at a screen.
Right, I am going to feel genuine physiological anxiety even if I am sitting perfectly safe in my living room.
Precisely. So step 1, control attention. Step 2, influence emotion. The next link in the chain is behavior.
Emotion leads to behavior.
People like to believe they are highly rational creatures who make logical decisions, but neurobiology tells us otherwise. Most human behavior is driven by emotional state.
Makes sense.
A population that is kept in a state of chronic fear will behave entirely differently than a population in a state of security. An angry, outraged demographic will click different links, buy different products, and vote for different candidates than a joyful demographic.
Which takes us to the very bottom of the funnel, the end game.
Yes. If you can reliably influence behavior at massive scale, you can shape the foundational pillars of human society. You influence macroeconomic spending patterns. You shape cultural belief systems. You dictate the tone of personal relationships. You influence political realities. Over years of sustained conditioning, you alter identity itself. You change who people fundamentally believe they are.
I want to pause specifically on the mention of influencing political realities because the source brings this up, and it's crucial to state clearly to everyone listening that we are not taking ideological sides here. Left or right, it doesn't matter for this analysis.
Right, the mechanics are identical.
Exactly. What we are examining is the neutral machinery of societal influence. When algorithmic platforms control the flow of information to billions of people, they inevitably shape the political reality simply by deciding which emotional triggers to pull.
They don't have to explicitly tell you who to vote for?
No, they just have to keep you in a specific emotional state that makes you more receptive to certain types of messaging. We're just looking at how attention mechanics work on a societal level.
That's a vital distinction. The machine itself is completely agnostic to human ideology. It does not care about left-wing or right-wing politics. It only speaks one language, and that language is engagement.
Just keeping the eyes on the screen.
And this exposes the great paradox of the modern information age. By all logical, historical metrics, we should be living in a utopia of enlightenment right now.
We really should.
The average person today consumes more data in a single afternoon than our ancestors consumed in a month. We have instantaneous access to the accumulated knowledge of the entire human species right in our pockets.
We should be the most rational, calm, intellectually fulfilled society in the history of the world. But look at reality. Look at the faces of people on the subway. Look at how people actually feel.
It's a completely different picture.
The prevailing modern state of mind is one of profound exhaustion. Everyone feels overstimulated, chronically anxious, and mentally fragmented. We consume more information in a day than previous generations did in weeks, yet somehow we feel less clear and less capable of making sense of the world. Why is this paradox happening?
Because we have conflated volume with value. We've forgotten that information is not the same thing as wisdom.
Information is not wisdom.
And neurological stimulation is not the same thing as meaning. We are gorging on massive, uncurated data sets. But data without context, without that quiet time necessary for the default mode network to process it, just becomes cognitive clutter.
It's the dietary equivalent of eating 10,000 calories a day of pure refined sugar.
Yes.
Like mathematically, you are consuming an enormous amount of energy, but you are completely functionally malnourished.
And the algorithms that govern our feeds are the ultimate sugar pushers. You have to remember how these algorithms evolved. They were not programmed with human well-being in mind.
They weren't built to make us happy.
No, they were unleashed to optimize for a single metric, time on screen. And through billions of automated A/B tests, literally running micro-experiments on human behavior 24 hours a day, the algorithms discovered a terrifying truth about human nature.
What did they find out?
They learned that the human brain prioritizes threat and outrage over truth and nuance.
Let's get into the mechanics of that. Why does outrage work so well? I mean, nobody wants to be angry all the time.
It goes back to the amygdala, the primitive part of the brain responsible for processing fear and threat detection. In evolutionary terms, imagine you are a hunter-gatherer. If someone tells you a nuanced, detailed story about a distant berry patch, you might listen.
Sure, if I have time.
But if someone runs into the camp and screams, "There is a tiger in the brush,"
Yeah,
your amygdala instantly hijacks your brain.
because you might die.
Exactly. Your attention is involuntarily captured because your survival depends on it. The algorithms discover that they can artificially trigger this amygdala hijack over and over again.
So they basically learned the recipe for virality.
Yes, outrage spreads exponentially faster than truth. Fear keeps the eyes glued to the screen far more effectively than calm analysis. Shock generates clicks. Anger drives comments and shares.
It's so true. If a journalist writes a deeply researched, heavily nuanced article exploring the complexities of some geopolitical issue, it requires high cognitive effort to read.
It's hard work to process.
It might get a few quiet nods of approval, but if a pundit posts a highly sensationalized, context-free, fear-mongering headline about that exact same issue,
It demands low cognitive effort and triggers high emotional arousal.
it will go viral instantly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the internet has slowly transformed from a digital library into a machine optimized for emotional addiction, because the strongest emotions hold attention the longest. It gets us addicted to our own stress hormones.
So if you keep people angry, they have to keep clicking to find out what to be angry about next.
And if you keep them terrified, they keep scrolling to make sure they are safe.
But anger and fear are highly volatile, exhausting emotions. You can't sustain a decades-long business model on pure outrage alone. Eventually, the user just burns out and unplugs. So while outrage creates these big spikes in engagement, what is the baseline emotion that drives the actual daily economy of consumption?
That brings us to the collateral damage, and what is arguably a much quieter, slower tragedy, the dissatisfaction engine.
The dissatisfaction engine. But before we get to the dissatisfaction part, let's look at the cultural casualties. What is this constant stimulation actively eroding?
We are losing depth across the board.
The source material lists some really sad cultural casualties. People are struggling to read long books, like they get 3 pages in and the brain starts itching for the quick dopamine hit of a notification.
Our conversations are becoming shorter and more fractured, too.
Patience is disappearing entirely. Deep thinking is slowly dying. And the most poignant casualty of all this, and the text brings this up beautifully, is the elimination of boredom.
Yes, the death of boredom.
We treat boredom like it's a disease we have to cure instantly with a screen. But historically, boredom was the space where creativity actually lived.
It is a critical neurological state. When you are bored, your brain is starved of external dopamine, so it is forced to generate its own. It is forced to invent.
To daydream.
It is forced to look at the mundane environment and find a new way to interact with it. Every great novel, every massive scientific breakthrough, every profound piece of art was likely born from a mind that had the space to wander.
But today, the second we feel the slightest hint of understimulation, we escape into the digital pacifier. We never allow silence to appear.
We never cross the threshold of boredom to reach the spark of creativity.
But here is the ultimate twist, and this is the darkest economic mechanic from the text. This economy does not just profit from distraction, it does not just profit from outrage, it actually profits from incompleteness.
The manufacturing of insecurity.
Let's analyze this. How does social media manufacture insecurity?
Well, when you strip away the branding and the filters, what is a social media feed? It is a constant, unrelenting, high-definition bombardment of people displaying richer lifestyles, better physiques, more successful careers, highly disciplined morning routines, perfect relationships, and exotic luxuries.
And you are sitting on your worn-out couch in sweatpants, eating lukewarm takeout, and your brain is being forced to compare your mundane, behind-the-scenes reality with the highly curated, digitally altered highlight reels of billions of other human beings.
And from an evolutionary standpoint, the human brain was simply not built to process that scale of social comparison.
What do you mean?
For 99% of human history, your social circle was maybe 50 to 100 people in your local tribe or village. You figured out where you stood in that small hierarchy, and you found a level of contentment.
You just had to be like the third best hunter in the village.
Exactly. Today, the algorithm takes the top 0.001% of the most beautiful, wealthy, and successful people on the entire globe and injects them directly into your retinas 24 hours a day.
So what does this all mean? What does that do to a person's psyche over time?
It creates this permanent, inescapable, low-grade hum of inadequacy, a feeling that your current life, exactly as it is fundamentally not enough.
You aren't productive enough, your house isn't aesthetic enough, your vacations aren't adventurous enough.
You are falling behind.
And what do you do with that manufactured feeling of inadequacy? You buy more, you compare more, you watch more, you upgrade more.
You are running on a hedonic treadmill that the algorithms keep speeding up.
Which leads to the chilling rule of the market delivered in the source material. It's a gut punch. The economy of attention survives by manufacturing dissatisfaction because satisfied people stop scrolling.
That is the crux of the entire system. Think about what you do when you feel truly content.
Like genuinely happy.
Yes. If you have a moment of profound peace, if you are deeply happy with who you are, your family, and your immediate surroundings, what do?
You put the phone down.
You go for a walk in the woods. You have a deep conversation with your partner. You sleep soundly. You require zero digital stimulation and zero consumer products in that moment.
Contentment is literally a threat to the GDP.
It is the ultimate existential threat to the attention economy. Therefore, for the machine to survive and report quarterly growth to its shareholders, it must ensure that you never, ever feel entirely satisfied. It must continually manufacture a psychological deficit in your soul so that it can continually sell you the temporary cure.
With our dissatisfaction completely monetized like this, we have to ask, how advanced is the surveillance that keeps this engine running, and where is it heading?
To understand the surveillance, we have to look at a concept from architecture and philosophy called the panopticon.
The AI panopticon.
Right. In the late 18th century, a philosopher named Jeremy Bentham designed a theoretical prison. The design was circular, with all the prison cells lined up along the outer wall. In the very center of the circle was a single watchtower.
Okay.
The genius and the terror of the panopticon was that the watchtower was backlit. The prisoners could not see inside it. They never knew if a guard was actually watching them at any given moment.
But because they might be watched at any second, they had to assume they were always being watched.
Exactly. The prisoners internalized the surveillance. They began to police their own behavior. But what we have built with the smartphone is an AI panopticon that goes far beyond Bentham's wildest nightmares.
Because we carry the watchtower in our pockets.
And in this panopticon, the guard isn't just watching your physical behavior. The guard is predicting your internal mental state.
Let's talk about the global marketplace of focus. Human attention used to be deeply personal, almost spiritual. Now it's a commodity with measurable financial value attached to every second. And the metrics of manipulation, what exactly is being tracked here?
They aren't just logging your clicks. The algorithms track how long you pause on a photo. They map out what triggers your emotions. They analyze what keeps you awake at night by looking at your 2.0 AM search history when your defenses are down.
They know what creates your insecurity.
They know what makes you click. You aren't just a user to them. You are a complex mathematical puzzle that they have completely solved.
This raises an important question, though. If they know all this, what's next?
Well, AI systems are now so advanced, they can predict human behavior better than humans themselves. They know you were considering a divorce months before you file the papers, based on the phrasing of your search queries and the types of profiles you linger on.
That is deeply unsettling.
It forces us to ask, what does a future look like under this paradigm? The source material projects a future vision that we really need to sit with. The ultimate battle, the true battlefield, is not for oil, land, or even data.
Because data's everywhere now. We're drowning in it.
Right. In a world overflowing with information, the information itself has a value approaching zero.
So what is the scarce resource?
It is a battle for human consciousness itself. Attention equals power in a world overflowing with information. Whoever can capture, direct, and sustain human consciousness controls the trajectory of the species.
I want to address the listener directly for a second, because if you are sitting there right now feeling physically exhausted just hearing about the sheer scale of this machinery, I want to validate that. It is completely real.
It's an exhausting reality.
Your mind isn't resting. It is constantly being extracted. Every single platform is designed to demand a piece of your cognitive load. They demand more time than you gave them yesterday. They demand more emotion, more reactions, and more dependency.
They demand your existence.
You think you are using technology, but the brutal reality of the architecture is that technology is using you. You are the natural resource being mined.
And the system functions perfectly because distraction acts as an anesthetic. It prevents us from noticing that we are distracted.
So, how do we break the trance? How do we wake up and step off this battlefield?
The scariest part of this reality is that distracted people rarely pause. They rarely stop to question their environment, to disconnect, or to just reflect. The power of the pause is the only weapon we have.
So I want to ask the listener the most crucial question from the text. Next time you're scrolling, ask yourself, who benefits from my constant attention in this exact moment?
When you are lying in bed at midnight, scrolling through political outrage, or comparing yourself to an influencer who is actually profiting from your elevated heart rate and your feelings of inadequacy.
It certainly isn't you.
No, you are paying for their profit with your peace of mind. Once you genuinely ask that question, you start to see the strings. And this brings us to the philosophical climax of the source. Attention determines reality.
What you consume becomes your thoughts.
Yes, your thoughts become your behavior.
And your behavior becomes your life.
Whoever controls your attention shapes your future. It's that simple and that profound.
So we need a new definition of wealth. For centuries, real wealth was money, property, gold. But based on this text, I want to reframe this for everyone listening. Real wealth in the modern world isn't money.
Not anymore.
Real wealth is the ability to focus. It is the ability to sit perfectly still, think clearly, resist constant stimulation, and protect your own mind in a world that is custom designed to hijack it.
Because, to wrap up the core thesis here, attention is life itself. It is the only thing you truly possess. Whatever receives your attention receives your existence.
And today, the world's largest companies are competing for every second of your existence. So as you go about your day tomorrow, the question is no longer, what are you watching? The real question is, what is watching you back?